Hey, what's going on? It's Ray with Nashville Metal Bands. You're watching episode 5 from May 2011. Today, we're at World Music Nashville in Bellevue on Highway 70 South. We'll be talking with none other than Tony Stone from 1029 The Local Buzz. All right, so we're here with Tony Stone from 1029 The Local Buzz. Tony, thank you so much for coming out and spending some time with us today.
Definitely.
We've been talking a little bit. Tony and I have something in common, as he's obviously in FM broadcast, and that's something that I did a little while back, so I have an idea of what it is that you do,
right,
and appreciate what you go through as an on-air personality, making everything work, and then being a very public person.
Yeah.
But the reality is that you do a pretty good job of being a private person as well. I know when I went digging, I was only able to find a certain amount of things.
Yeah.
And I know when I've asked, you know, what is it that you guys want to hear about Tony Stone, when I asked the viewers, you know, it was a lot of the, hey, how does the program work, and how do things get played, and how do things get selected?
Yeah.
But everybody also said, who is Tony Stone?
Right.
So why don't you give us a little background about yourself?
Well, I've been in Nashville. I'm originally from Atlanta.
Okay.
Moved to Nashville younger years, and kind of got into the scene at a very early age. My best friend, I consider a brother. I've known the guy since I was 5. Incredible musician. He got me into music because he basically needed somebody to fill his guitar playing.
Okay.
He needed a bass player and a drummer, so he picked my twin brother and I, and he was like, "Bam, you're my band."
Right.
You know. So I mean, that's where it started.
And which were you, the bass player or the drummer?
I was the drums. I
drummer?
started on a pair of paint cans. You know.
Nice.
My brother was on a bass and he picked up a guitar.
How did you fall into radio? Because that doesn't happen for just everybody. Either they go for broadcasting,
right,
or somebody happens to discover them in one way or another. What was your entry looking like?
Well, it was, man, I didn't want to be in the studio anymore. I wanted to be back in the scene of things. And it just happened that the Buzz, I heard a commercial. I mean, for a long time, I hated commercial radio. I hated everything about it because they wouldn't play my bands.
Right.
I'm down and out. I'm a metalhead, man. Slayer, Pantera, Anthrax, you know, stuff that wouldn't get normal play on radio.
Right.
So I'm like, well, I always had the CD player, but the Buzz ended up, I guess, picking back up with things. They kind of lost the alternative side at that edge, and they started playing a lot of, I guess, still alternative bands, but, you know, they picked up.
They got heavier.
Yeah, they got heavier there for a while.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I jumped in. I was like, well, I don't want to be behind the board. I'm not ready to jump on the road.
Right.
Because my other job, I do rigging. I'm a production rigger.
Okay.
So I almost thought about, let's get on the road. I didn't want to get on a tour.
You look like a climber. I can see that.
Right. So I love Nashville for what it was. So I wasn't ready to leave. And pretty much I had 2 great mentors at the station. Ziggs.
Right.
You know, we would hang out at Coyote Ugly's. He'd broadcast live, and I was basically his remote tech.
Right.
Getting everything ready to go for the live broadcast, and just hanging out there and just actually seeing how the gears worked, you know, how it would just be. And I was like, man, I wonder if I could be a radio personality. And it just kind of happened where it was the right place at the right time. They needed a fill-in guy for the holidays, you know, Thanksgiving overnights. And I was like, well, let me see, throw an air check your way.
Right.
And it just happened to work, you know, and that's where basically I got my start. And it was overnights, weekends.
Yep.
After we did the whole, you know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, I was in there for a minute, but I loved it, you know?
Right.
And that's where, I guess, I started meeting Al John a lot, because I would do, I moved into overnights, and Al John was always there on Sunday nights, and I would come in, you know, a little bit early.
And you knew him from back in the days when he was playing in Ming and things like that, and then you get to cross paths again in the studio?
Yeah, it was just wild, because we never really knew each other, but we crossed paths back then.
Right.
And we kind of knew of each other.
Right.
You know, and I mean, he was always, I mean, hell, Al John was on the radio for 15 years.
Right.
You know, he basically started local rock in this town when, well, KDF was KDF.
Big props to Al John.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, you know, basically I'd kind of come in early on some nights and watch Al John just do his thing.
Yeah.
You know, and he would always have great local bands in there. So I'd sit in the production room with the door open and just listen.
Right.
You know, and I was like, man, I just want to be back in the local scene again. You know, and pretty much I got my chance. Al John was pretty much ready to give it up. And I'd been working a lot with my other job, doing a lot of rigging and stuff, and basically moved back down to part-time, and I got the shot. You know, Al John was like, I need a co-host, and our program director, Troy Hansen, was like, yeah. So it was great. It was just kind of like it meshed, and Al John was like, yeah, let's do this thing. And cool. I just kind of co-hosted with him, and then he was like, yeah, I think I'm ready to retire. Are you ready to take over the show? And I'm like, whew.
Nice.
I mean, yes and no. You know, that's it is. I mean, it's a big job.
Yeah.
I mean,
and let's face it, there's a real love-hate with the local buzz because it's wow, these guys are the ones that'll get out there and put my band in front of, you know, all of Nashville.
Right.
But then it's the flip side of, they never play my band, and so you know, when I asked the fans, I was like, what is it that you want to know? This was the big topic, and you know, you and I were discussing beforehand, and like I said, I've also got a background in radio, and I know that at least on, you know, the mainstream side of things, the national side of things, it's people in suits in HQ someplace saying that, well, the Armatron ratings book says that we need to be playing this, and we take breaks at this point, and this is who's listening. But we're 9 to midnight on a Sunday, so, you know, there's not as big a base listening.
Right.
And, hey, let's face it, it is the local buzz at that point. So what goes into the decision-making process? You've got a panel for deciding who gets played, and then what does it look like on a week-by-week basis?
Well, pretty much it goes down to you submit your music. You, of course, it's got to be quality. I mean, I can't tell you how many CDs I get that just aren't quality. I mean, either it's great music and horrible production. You know, you could tell they recorded it in a garage, in a basement with no sound, and sounds bouncing off the garage door. You know, it's just like, I like the music, but I can't play something like that. It doesn't come across well. I mean, we are a professional radio station in a top market, you know, but to basically get in, the music gets submitted either to myself or the local buzz panel. I take a listen to it, and then I sit down with 4 guys in the local buzz panel, and we kind of just we collaborate on it. You know, we really nitpick.
You do.
I mean, yeah, because given out of my show, you're going to hear a lot of music you don't like. Point blank. It's a local show. It's
multi-genre.
Right.
You know, if you want Nashville metal, well, you come to me. If you want Nashville music on FM radio, here's your guy.
So it's like, you know, we sit down and we listen to the production side of it. We listen to the words. We listen to the music. And we listen to, you know, what makes a band. Because I always end my show with, please submit music. You know, give me anything you got as long as it's radio suitable. And I mean, I don't want garbage. I don't. I get enough garbage, you know? I mean, I'll go to a show and...
Like you said, Nashville is a top market. And Nashville is known as the Music City. If we're going to put something out here as a scene, it's got to be quality. I mean, there's a reputation to maintain.
Exactly.
And the reality is, look, I know a band who just got airplay on the local buzz within the last 2 months, and I know these guys well, and I know that they went out and got a decent recording and spent a couple of dollars, but it definitely didn't break the bank. And you're playing them. So when you say that it's got to be quality, it doesn't have to cost $10 million.
No.
You know, you can get a good quality recording in Nashville for a few $100. And hey, especially if you just push out singles instead of trying to get an album out with a dozen songs.
Exactly.
You can push singles out to Tony, and hey, he'll put them out there. Conversely, you and I have had this conversation about my band. You were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't been playing in Believe Me and Myth lately," and it was like, dude, I understand that. We haven't had new music in 3 years. We're in the studio again this weekend, so I'm really hoping it's on tape. But look, I know if it's not new and fresh, you've got other priorities that you got to play. So to speak to those people who are like, how come you're not playing my music? Well, how old is it, and what is the quality? Because that's a key part of what you do.
I mean, I don't want something dated. You know, I mean,
and even if it is, it's not like you won't play it. It's just not going to get played all the time.
Because I get so much new music, and I get so many good bands that come through. You know, it's like...
and talk about quality. You get bands, I mean, they're not necessarily on National Metal Bands for some reason. Guys, come join the party. But like Kaylee Worldwide, here they are doing a collaboration with Brian Head Wells from Korn. It's just like, you know, when you get that kind of thing coming through Nashville, dude, you want to showcase that. And I appreciate that you've been playing things of that caliber on the local buzz. That could be played on any radio station, and it's starting here in Nashville with you.
All in all, I mean, I want every band out there that's decent quality to be heard. One way or another, and I mean, it takes request. You know, I like people. I like people to hammer the Twitter, the Facebook, the phone lines, my email. I want to see requests.
Name some names. Who do you see doing this on a consistent basis?
Getting requests?
Getting requests, working the Twitter, working the Facebook. Who do you see doing it? Because people need to know who to look to in the scene to go, well, they're doing it. Let me go see what they're doing.
Right now, I can say probably one of the biggest is Chris Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Bell's out there working.
Yep.
And he's got a lot of people. I mean, I get requests from him from Texas. I got a couple loyal listeners.
Yep.
Listen streaming online at 1029thebuzz.com.
Yep.
That will sit there every Sunday night. Send me an email. Love from Texas. You know, I want to hear Chris Bell in Texas. The online features that we have, because our website, you know, we've got a lot of stuff, not just on the local side of it, but on the whole 1029thebuzz.com.
Right.
You know, you can check out anything from events going on to what your DJs are blogging about, that kind of stuff, and kind of be in the know as far as Nashville, and then go to that local link and be able to see, you know, a great band as a featured artist of the month, have the video up, we've got pictures and whatnot, and it just gives a chance for the fans to actually interact,
right?
You know, and I can see, you know, who's actually got their street team working.
Right.
You know, it's like...
Well, and speaking of street teams, it looks like, you know, Stickman Records went out there and got strongly behind Fists of the North Star, and they are the current band of the month.
They are.
You know, props to them. They worked really hard for it.
Exactly, because I mean, you'd be surprised the number of votes that come on through that page.
I probably would.
I
know it's amazing when Nashville Metal Bands does our, you know, voting for band of the month, and it's just like, what, really? You get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah.
And sometimes for bands, and this is one of the things that I appreciate, maybe you do as well, is you start finding bands that people are voting for, and you're like, whoa, this isn't on my radar. Who is this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In fact, do you get that? Are you getting requests for bands that you don't even have their music?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and more so, I'd say in the last couple of weeks, there's been a couple of bands out there that are just like, you know, we want to hear this, we want to hear this, we want to hear this. And I'm digging through the closet, and I'm like, I don't have that CD. And I'm looking through the library, and I'm like, I don't have that CD. I'm like, sorry, I don't have that CD.
So for those bands who are getting those requests, and hey, you know who you are. If you haven't sent it in, you need to take the time. Sit down, take a quality recording, and what's the deal? How do they send it to you?
The best and easiest way is either to mail it or drop it off at the station, 1824 Murfreesboro Road, Nashville, Tennessee, 37217, I think.
We'll double check it.
Right. And then you can mail it either to myself, Tony Stone, or the local buzz panel. Either way it gets to me. Or you can come by and drop it off Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, give it to the receptionist. It'll be in my mailbox or local buzz mailbox, and we can get it that way.
And what do you need? You need a CD, and you need a bio?
A bio, basically a polish press kit. I want to see the pictures. You know, I want to make sure, you know, what you look like.
Right.
You know, I want to make sure you're playing shows here in Nashville, that you're not, oh, you just recently moved from Indiana and you've never played a show, but you hear the local buzz and you're like, oh, yeah. Right. No, I want a band that's actually, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear good quality music. I just want to hear good musicians, good songwriting.
Right.
I mean, I guess that's what the key is. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with a nice little shred or some double bass in there as well, you know.
We're down with that.
I mean, but, you know, I like the whole aspect of getting to know everything there is about music. I'll never know it. Never in my life.
Well, you're firmly entrenched in it and in the middle of the music city, so you're in a good place to get as much as physically possible, that's for sure.
I mean, I'm going to do it until I burn out, and then I'm going to go hide in the country.
That works, man. Well, thanks so much for taking the time with us.
Definitely. I appreciate you having me today, and man, this is great. Great setup.
Yeah, I know.
Great setup, man.
Come on down here to Nashville World Music in Bellevue on Highway 70 South over by the Kroger. It's a beautiful store. They're going to take good care of you. And make sure you're listening to 1029 The Local Buzz Sunday nights from 9 to midnight. Get your requests in.
Yep.
And thank you so much for watching Nashville Metal Bands.